Super excited to be here today. And, it's about 6, 7 months since we closed the transaction with Aruba. And so part of what we want to do today is share the progress that we've made together in the last 6 or 7 months relative to networking and security and SD-WAN. We also want to give you a flavor of what's happening with Wi-Fi 6, particularly Wi-Fi 6E. But before we get into all of that, I want to talk a little bit about some of the changes and things that we're seeing happening in the market. So first up, there in the last year has obviously been different than any other year in the past. And it's accelerated a couple of trends. The whole idea of work from anywhere was already a thing before COVID. People were talking about bring your own device. Everyone wanted to be able to work on the road. But with everyone locked down and working from home, it's really accelerated people's thinking in terms of how do we build and enable a distributed workforce? How does it change my network? What does it do to my security architecture? The other thing that we've seen is that there's been an acceleration in terms of people's adoption of digital transformation technologies. Again, an already existing trend on kind of a decade-long scale. But as we've gone through COVID, we've seen companies that have been better prepared from a digital point of view, being more agile in terms of being able to adapt their business to the unexpected and changing situations. Now, regardless of whether you're looking at the work from home aspect or the digital transformation aspect, what these things are doing is presenting big opportunities going forwards, but they're also dramatically changing the way we have to think about networking and security. The kind of traditional architecture where the data center is the center and you're building a perimeter security fortress around that data center is being really challenged, not just as things move to the cloud, but also as everyone at the edge is outside of that perimeter and they're accessing both applications inside the data center and in the cloud. How do they do that in a consistent way? And then from a digital transformation point of view, there's all the challenges around IoT devices, which of course they are the kind of lifeblood of digital transformation, but each of them is at a threat vector that people are worried. What happens if you have your video camera hacked and then from there people move laterally to attack other parts of your organization? So this is kind of driving a lot of innovation in this area from Aruba and from the industry in general. A lot of buzzwords like cloud delivered security, secure access service edge or SASE, zero trust, dynamic segmentation. One of the what we have been talking about at Aruba Atmosphere from a month ago, and what we'll share a little bit about today in terms of our demos, is what we call edge to cloud security, which really encompasses all of the above. It's a holistic approach to security and networking driven from the edge. So I think when you look across the field, everybody kind of is talking about this networking and security convergence. So what's different about Aruba and Silver Peak? Well, I think the biggest difference is that we were born at the edge. Aruba was born at the edge with wired and wireless LAN. Silver Peak was born at the edge, looking at how we could build better WANs for our customers and innovate from the outside in. This is in contrast to a lot of other vendors in the space, people who were born in the data center that have focused on building that next-gen firewall fortress around the data center. And those people that are born in the cloud, like a Zscaler or a Netscope, each vendor comes from a different perspective and brings some unique capabilities. But as you'll see, we think that the edge is a really unique position to start from, and it's probably the best position to help customers transition their networks to get from where they are today, A, to where they need to be, B. And I think what's important to recognize is that each customer has a different A and a different B. Not everyone wants to move everything to the cloud. There's some customers that want to, for regulatory reasons or others, hold things closer to the vest. What we want to be able to let our customers do is move at their pace from their A to their B. And for us, we think of the edge as a pivot point that enables this transformation. So the edge is a really critical place because it's the intersection where we can intercept traffic from people to applications. It's also where we can intercept traffic from things, from devices that are talking to their head end, be it in the data center or the cloud. It's the point when we can decide when someone's, say, opening an Office 365 session, do we want to send that direct to net, direct to Microsoft? Do we want to send that to a cloud security service on the way? Or do we want to backhaul that through the data center and through our next-gen firewall perimeter? All of those policy decisions can be made at the edge. And so it's from the edge that we can enable this step-by-step transition that the customer wants. Now, about this time last year, Aruba announced the Edge Services Platform, or ESP. It's Aruba's architecture to enable this edge transformation. It consists of three main layers. The connect layer, which is like your traditional physical networking layer. It's when you think about networking and all the stuff that's been done for the last 2 decades, a lot of that sits in the connect layer. And it's obviously very important because that's where the packets get carried. On top of that, we have the protect layer, which is all about adding security, enforcing policy, being able to identify users, being able to identify devices. That's what we call edge to cloud security. And coming up, we're going to do some demos showing what we have coming there. And then at the third layer is analyze and act. And so that's all about orchestration and AI ops. It's about the magic where we turn a business level description, a set of goals for the network, into action. And so a big part of what we see changing in networking is moving from the way we've done things for the last couple of decades, where if you've got 500 locations with a high availability, you've got 1,000 devices. And if you are looking at a traditional network, you're going to go to each of those 1,000 devices and type a few thousand lines of CLI. So in aggregate, millions of lines of code. And if you get every line just right, those devices are all going to work together and deliver a network experience that you and your customers expect. Well, somehow we've been managing to make that work, but it's very brittle and very hard to get right and very hard to deliver a consistent experience to every user in every location. So the idea that we have of building a self-driving WAN or a self-driving network is to be able to turn that problem up the other way. Let's describe how we want the network to behave, and then use orchestration and AI ops to make that happen. Collect data from the network and put it in a data lake, and then use that to identify anomalies to assist with troubleshooting and so on. That's that third layer of analyze and act. So this all comes together with Aruba Central and lets us address users no matter where they are, whether they're remote, whether they're at home, on campus, in a factory, or accessing data that's in the cloud. So with my final slide, I joined Aruba team. We came together September last year. And one of the first things we obviously needed to do is to think about how we could bring Silver Peak Edge Connect, our SD-WAN platform, into Aruba's Edge Services platform. And at that time, we identified 5 opportunities for innovation, 5 ways that we could kind of deliver 1 + 1 = 3 value to our customers. We really wanted to try to focus on innovation over integration. So we want to make sure that as we're bringing the companies together, we're developing and delivering new capabilities versus porting software sideways from one platform to another. And so we'll share a little bit more about where we are on this journey. But in short, one of the things we want to do is be able to support customers who are used to Aruba Central to be able to allow them to use Aruba Central to control the Silver Peak network. Second thing we want to do is to be able to integrate in with Aruba's ClearPass, that kind of network-wide policy that lets us control users by role, but also control and segment IoT devices. Aruba's been a pioneer in SD branch, the idea of bringing software-defined WAN and software-defined LAN together. And so we want to take that innovation and incorporate it in Edge Connect. We want to be able to deliver unified threat management across the portfolio in a consistent way. So we'll talk a little more about that too. And then finally, the opportunity to bring Silver Peak's self-driving WAN and Aruba's AI Ops together. And so these are the 5 areas that we've been really focused on. We're going to give you a bit of an update on the progress today.